Hello, Dustin.
What's up, Pooper?
I was just recounting. I had a crazy weekend.
Oh yeah.
How was your weekend?
It was good. What did I do this weekend? I have no recollection.
I do that all the time where I'm like, was that this weekend or did
I worked. That's what it was. No wonder.
Oh.
No, we're coming off of, as of this recording, we're coming off of Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
And so it was a crazy few days because we had a bunch of stuff at work that ended up getting shifted and postponed and changed. And so everything just kind of started stacking up there at the end of last week. And, just one of those things. It's like, it can't be helped, but I'm still a little sore about it, but it's fine. Whatever. Yeah. Nobody's at fault here. But
yeah. Well, I did not work this weekend, but it was like a busy 4 days. So we had Riley's birthday weekend this weekend. Nice. So we took all my kids out to this children's museum in Gulfport, Mississippi. So about an hour west of where I am. And sure. We've gone to this place a few times. We went for my 4-year-old's birthday. So, cool. But it's like this big old building that has all this stuff for them to play with, and this crazy like structure they can climb up like the atrium middle of it, and it goes like 3 stories high, but I guess it is 3 stories, 3 regular floors. But it's completely like wired in, so like they can't fall out of it.
Sure.
So even my 3-year-old climbed it, so it was cool.
Nice.
Both my brothers were there and their families, because my younger brother was already coming in town from Louisiana.
Oh, cool.
Or they were going to like the next weekend or something. They're like, we'll just do it this one instead.
Yeah, why not?
So so I got to see all of my nieces and nephews.
Nice.
And my brothers and my sisters-in-law, and it was cool. So, and then I actually ended up going to their house again Saturday night for a little bit. So
I'm going to assume that's the hierarchy order of how you enjoyed seeing them.
Oh,
children first, brothers second, sister-in-laws
then
third,
wives, and then my parents. No, it was good, and we had
myself. Oh,
we had a good. Yeah, I didn't even mention myself. Yeah, I'm not on that list.
I don't even look at myself. I can't even look myself in the eyes.
It was, and then we had lunch. So we had lunch over in Biloxi at this pretty cool place, and I had some fish tacos. Yeah, they were good, and yeah. So good stuff. And then, so we just sort of had like a normal Sunday, because Saturday was so packed. So Sunday I just sat around and read all day.
Yeah.
And then Monday the kids had a virtual day for school. I don't even know why, but it was a scheduled like virtual day. So they were just here all day. And then, about noon, I took Noah to go get his braces off. And we're in the lobby afterwards. He's kind of got like his head on his hands a little bit on like the counter, and it's like 1:00. And I was like, oh, this kid's must be sore,
Yeah.
And so we're scheduling, and he's just like, yeah, I don't feel very good. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess the wires or whatever, like really did a number on your teeth.
Yeah.
And then he just goes, and he just throws up all up in the lobby, all over this carpet. It's not like it's carpet. And then he throws up again, twice. So I walk him over to the bathroom. It's all over his shirt. So like they give him like a new shirt to wear. They give me a trash bag. I'm trying to like help him clean this up. And I was like, oh my God. And I was just like, what happened? Like,
yeah.
And so we drove home. I put him in the front seat. I made like hold the trash bag that has the yucky clothes in them. And so we drove home, and then, and then he threw up 4 more times over the course of the entire day.
Oh my gosh.
And like, to the point where like his stomach is empty, and and he was remarkably zen about it. Each time he'd throw up, and he just said, he says, I think I'll probably have one more, but that one that one was pretty painful. And I was like,
gosh,
the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And then around like the end of the day or halfway through the afternoon, Amelia's like, I don't feel good. And Amelia gets like sympathy, stuff. Sometimes I've seen her like feel sick just pure mentally.
Sure.
Amelia throws up five times as well.
Oh my gosh.
Just multiple trips and so at this point I'm like, oh shit. All right. Like who else is sick? And so like, then Oliver's like, I feel kind of sick. And I was like, no, you don't. He was fine. Riley's
he just wanted
fine.
To be apart. Yeah.
Cause I was telling Tara, I was like, what do you think's going on? And she was like, maybe they picked up like a virus or something from the Children's Museum.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that sucks because we were all there. So I guess get ready for us all to just start throwing up.
Yeah. I'm just imagining the Ipecac gag from Family Guy.
It was almost, and so at this point, I have a picture of it. They're all just like laying on the carpet, like just miserably watching TV, just trying not to vomit. I was like, "Ugh." And so and so by the time like Amelia's really in the throes of it, and I can tell like, okay, this is like a bug. I'm like in the kitchen cooking fish, and I was just like, I guess no one else is going to eat this. So like I'm the only one who ate dinner. I sat there with like a big plate of food, like meant to feed 5 people. And I was just like, wow, I guess I'll just eat this will be mine. Asparagus. And I just packed it all up. And wow. Yeah, it was crazy. And that's what I spent the whole. And so then they stayed home today. Cause at some point I told Amelia, like, you need to stay home from school. Like you all need to stay home from school. I'm even going to keep Oliver home from school because I'm not going to make y'all ride in the car. I don't want to risk you guys throwing up in the car. Yeah. Oliver's in pre-K. He's not going to miss any classes. I'm just going to keep him home. And so like I emailed all their teachers and I was like, we have like a stomach bug or something. And Amelia's like starts freaking out because she had like a test today. And and I was like, you're going to make it up because you're not going to school. And, it was just a whole big thing. So no one threw up today. It all ended last night. My big kids went to bed at like 7 p.m. because like they just fell asleep like on the carpet.
Yeah,
they were just like so exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I put them in bed and, made them shower and brush their teeth. And I was just like, get in bed, go to sleep. We're not going anywhere tomorrow. Just sleep as late as you possibly can. Yeah. And so it was pretty quiet last night. And other than Amelia, who kept getting up to vomit. But they went to bed really early. And today it was just bread for breakfast. And then like I just about every couple hours I'd be like, go eat another piece of bread. And then like finally at lunch, like Noah, they both like had yogurt. I was like, all right, here's a little dice roll here, get some yogurt. Yeah. And then at snack time, and they were starting to feel better, start bickering. And I was like, y'all are feeling better. Cause now they're feeling like a little, Noah starts goofing around a little bit more. And I was like, all right, have a granola bar, like a chocolate chip granola bar. And they both ate that and it was fine. And then I was like, yeah, cause tonight we're having like red beans and rice and sausage and your mom got cupcakes for Riley. So you can't eat cupcakes if you don't feel well enough to eat dinner and stuff. So like we got the ball rolling. So they've had red beans and rice, cupcakes. So feeling good. So 24-hour bug. Wow. Jesus. So
did any of your brother's kids get it?
I didn't ask. I don't think so. But I don't care. I don't care.
Well, I'm happy to see those kids, but I do not care if they're sick.
I suppose what I really mean, I'm joking, but I do. There's nothing I can do about their kids being sick. So like, I sort of thought like, oh, maybe I'll mention it. And then I thought, I don't want to worry anybody. Like, obviously if their kids start throwing up, they know what to do. And, it's not like I can do anything by warning them except freak them out. So I just figured, you know what? I'm not going to say anything because if their kids are sick, they're also sick now. So I figured my mom would have told me because she was the one who watched my other kids while we went to the orthodontist, and she knew that we came home. She's like, oh no, let me see your teeth. And I was like, he needs to get in the shower. He threw up and stuff. Right. So we couldn't even enjoy. So it was like later yesterday and today where I was finally like, hey, let me see your teeth. Like, and he was like,
you're not going to vomit on me.
Showing me like his cool, like new straight teeth. And I was like, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sorry you kind of got robbed of all this yesterday.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
it was nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm
man.
It was a pretty crazy 4 days. So
yeah, I can imagine.
I was sort of expecting just to exert myself on Saturday.
Yeah, sure.
And then kind of recover Sunday, and then kind of have like a so-so Monday with this virtual day. And then they were home again today. And I was like, oh my God, I just couldn't get anything done. So,
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I did finish reading 11/22/63.
Oh, nice.
This weekend. So I'll be watching the show soon. And
great. I'm not going to ask you how you felt about it. I'll wait till the full review. Yeah.
People can look forward to that coming up.
Sweet.
So yeah, man, crazy.
Yeah. Hey, so you mentioned fish tacos a minute ago.
Mm-hmm. And then I had fish for dinner, and then I had fish for dinner again on Sunday. I just had a shitload of fish this weekend.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. There's a lot worse things to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Rocket Power?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, I loved Rocket Power, and
I was obsessed with Rocket Power.
Yeah. Every time somebody mentions fish tacos, I always think of Rocket Power. Do you know the quote that I'm talking about?
No.
So Raymundo owned, what is it called? The Surf Shack,
the Shore Shack.
So it's like Shore Shack. That's what it was. So it's a restaurant, and they had like it was a real touristy, it was like an episode where they were just infested with tourists, basically. And this tourist comes in.
Is this the Shoobies?
The Shoobies, yes, the Shoobies. The Shoobies come in, and one of them goes up to Raymundo. It cuts inside, and you see him at the counter ordering, and he goes, "What is this fish taco?" And Raymundo goes, "Flounder with pico de gallo and a flour tortilla." And the Shoobie goes, "Oh, what's pico de gallo?" And Raymundo goes, "Hot salsa." And then he goes, "Oh, is a fish taco shaped like a fish?" and Raymundo goes, "Sure, whatever. Is that what you want?" And he goes, "Oh no, I'll have a cheeseburger." Yeah.
I do remember this.
The reason that the quote is so fresh in my brain is literally like a week ago, somebody mentioned fish tacos and I had to Google it. And I can't stop thinking about it every time somebody says fish taco. Is a fish taco shaped like a fish?
I do remember that episode, and I do remember that line now, because I think of Shooby every time I wear socks and sandals.
Sure.
Disproportionately frequently,
yes,
for my age and station, and I suppose I don't know what that even means. I don't know why I said that. I do it all the time, and every time I put it on, I think like I've become a shoey. Like
You're a shoebie.
I'm a shoebie.
You are a shoebie,
which is supposed to be like people who wear socks and like sandal slides or whatever
on the beach.
On the beach.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they can't handle the heat of the sand, I guess. Is that?
I guess.
Or is it just a fun visual tourists. Way to make them seem soft and
pretty much
standing out, don't belong here?
Right. Yeah, man, I loved Rocket Power back when it was on.
Rocket Power, because that was like one of our early teens or something.
Yeah, and it would have been.
That was like right around the time like I was actually like skating and
same. It was right in that era. Like all of the '90s kids grew up, and when the 2000s hit, we all decided we wanted to skateboard.
Yeah,
and this is due to Tony Hawk's popularity and like, which by the way,
I read that dude's book when I was like 11.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Do you know what I just found out? Maybe everyone knows this in the world. I did not know this. So, like a week or two ago, Tony Hawk became a grandfather. His son had a child. His son is married to Kurt Cobain's daughter.
Yeah.
Which means Tony Hawk and Kurt Cobain are in-laws.
Well, they would be.
Well, they are. They're just one's dead. But I was like, whoa, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no.
And that kid's got some cool genes.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I was aware of that because I saw it, I don't know, somewhere on social media. And then like I guess Tony Hawk was like trending, I guess, because of it, because I got pushed other Tony Hawk stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I found out that like the first like check he got or whatever for like the first video game was like $4 million or something.
Yeah.
And he basically was talking about how like just the royalties from that video game allowed him to like do everything he wanted to do with his life, basically.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
It's like
It's crazy.
The big reason, like, skating sponsorships matter and stuff, but like any underground amateur-ish sport,
Sure.
that's not like football, professional football. It's like it does not pay probably what you think it does.
Yeah.
In proportion to the exposure you get.
Yeah.
So a $4 million check for, a video game is pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know the full history of this, but do you know before Looney Tunes Back in Action, there was a sequel to Space Jam that was planned, and it was called Skate Jam, and it was going to be Tony Hawk.
Really?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I've heard Tony Hawk talk about it. He was like, that's still a huge bummer when I think about it. Cause like
I would have watched the shit out of that.
Like he saw a script, like everything, like it was ready to go.
Wow.
And so Skate Jam was a real thing, and it was going to be just Space Jam, but with Tony Hawk. And then it fell through, and they ended up going with Looney Tunes Back in Action, which I haven't seen in a long time. I liked it.
I haven't even seen it. Yeah.
Really? I liked it when I was a kid. Like I've looked at clips, and it probably doesn't hold up.
Who's the woman in that movie?
That's Jenna Elfman, I believe.
Oh, Jenna. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I like Space Jam better. I mean, neither of them are cinematic masterpieces, but Space Jam holds a special place. And like, I know like Skate Jam would have been my jam at that time.
Yeah, because it would have been like, when Space Jam came out in 96?
Yeah, 96, 97. Yeah, somewhere in there.
That's a very 90s movie. Michael Jordan's a very 90s, athlete. And then you'd get the 2000. It would have been perfect for that time.
Yeah, totally.
To have Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
God, imagine how much. It's hard to imagine him like being bigger than he became anyways. But
right.
I suppose it would just be one more thing. Like,
yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. So
Skate
canceled
Jam.
movies wiki.
Oh wow.
Skate Jam. Hold on. 8 million pop-ups. These wikis are the worst.
Well, to be fair, they have been asking for our donations for years.
Well, I ain't doing that.
We kept saying no, and they're like, all right.
Yeah, right.
See you at a pop-up farm here.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's not a lot of information about it other than it was going to happen. Tony Hawk was on board, and then it just never happened. So, but it looks like Tony Hawk has an iPhone game now called Tony Hawk's Skate Jam.
Oh, he got it in there.
Yeah, look at that. But yeah, man, I would have loved that.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
If they made, I was going to say, they just made that remake, but like what, is there like an athlete?
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was like, what remake?
I'm trying to think like what athlete now would make sense to do like a Space Jam movie with, not like, obviously not basketball.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
It would be some other thing. And I don't know who. Would it be like Swim Jam with Katie Ledecky or like
I don't know if anybody has quite the cultural
Track
impact.
Jam with Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yeah, right. Usain Bolt. Yeah.
Usain Bolt.
I don't know. Usain Bolt versus Roadrunner. Like that's the movie.
It would be, are there people more important than like or more like influential than athletes now? Is that part of why?
Musicians, maybe?
Yeah.
Like maybe it would have been
like Taylor Swift.
Like a Taylor Swift jam.
Swift Jam.
Yeah, I don't know.
Adele Jam.
I'm in my Looney era.
Space Adele.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Beyonce Jam.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I mean, all of these things sound plausible.
Lady Jam.
And all of them would have been a lot better than whatever the new one was called.
Yeah.
Whatever it was called.
Was
Space Jam something.
What the hell was it called? I'm blanking on it.
CG Don Cheadle Jam.
Algae Rhythm.
That was his. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Did I remind you of an unpleasant
thing? All of this has been buried.
What is it called? Space Jam. I was gonna say New Frontier, but that's definitely not it.
I was gonna say A New Hoop, but it's clearly not A New Hoop.
Okay, it's A New Legacy.
A New Legacy. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Uninspired.
Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? A New Legacy. Whose legacy?
Well, Warner Brothers, of course. David Zaslav.
This does nothing new for the Warner Brothers IP. Nor does it leave a legacy. I forgot about it 2 years after it happened.
The alternate title apparently was Ready Player None.
Oh. Hey-oh.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, we're gonna talk about something totally different. Maybe, I suppose, speaking of Warner Brothers.
Hey, there you go.
So this is the Superman episode, and that's what we've got for you tonight. So please enjoy our review of Superman. Dustin, you saw Superman, Super/Man, the Christopher Reeve story?
Correct. I don't think you have to say the slash, but yes.
Okay. It does sound worse when I say the slash.
Super/Man.
Super/Man.
It either sounds like a biopic of Guns N' Roses or a horror film.
Yeah. Super/Slasher Man.
Super/Slasher Man.
Super/ Brothers.
Super/ Brothers. I saw Superman, the Christopher Reeve story.
Everybody's looking for a hero. I am not a hero. That was a part. I played the part. I'm not that man.
Hands down, he was Superman from day one.
I realized that if I could pull off this part, it would change my life.
John Houseman said, Mr. Reeve, it is very important you become a serious classical actor. Unless, of course, they offer you a load of money to do something else.
He convinced me when I first met him that he would fly.
Doing things with my dad, it was all about activity and action. Riding bikes, playing soccer, skiing.
Carpe diem, Al!
My dad was very competitive, and he didn't necessarily slow down.
We said goodbye, and he gave this wave. That was the last time I saw him on his feet.
Mr. Reeve currently has no movement or spontaneous respiration.
Superman, crazy. Just that simple little thing over the horse.
I'd ruined my life and everybody else's. I won't be able to ski, sail, throw a ball to Will. Won't be able to make love to Dana. Maybe we should let me go.
She came flying in, and she just yelled, "I love you. I love you."
And then she said the words that saved my life. You're still you, and I love you.
He and Robin were such good friends because they could match each other.
Robin also had struggles that he dealt with his whole life, and I think that they both were aware of darkness.
Brother Chris is fighting like crazy. When you find people who fight like that but still keep their humanity, that gives you great hope.
That is tough because I can feel him, but he can't feel me.
It must have been hell for my mom, too, knowing what she had lost.
I felt I needed to do something, not just for myself, but for everyone else in the same condition.
The fact that Superman was in a wheelchair and was willing to go public with it was huge.
Help is on the way.
The Christopher and Dana Reeve Paralysis Act.
People are literally walking because of him.
What is a hero? My answer was that a hero is someone who commits a courageous action without considering the consequences. Now my definition is completely different. I think a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles.
I wouldn't have missed this for the world.
So this is a documentary, and it seems like most people probably have not heard about this. In fact, my theater, I was the only one in my theater for a solid 15 minutes, and then an old man walked in and loudly ate popcorn 2 rows in front of me. As a man struggles with paralysis, another man just gobbles down handfuls of popcorn. It's the ultimate slap in the face. Oh, that would suck. I wouldn't be able to shovel this popcorn into my mouth.
Have to make my wife overfeed me with popcorn.
Hey, me, pass the Sour Patch Kids, me. These are delicious. Good thing I can breathe and I'm not on a ventilator.
I'd never ride a horse. That's
I bet
your
you
problem.
wouldn't, old man.
Bet you haven't ridden anything for a long time, old man. Hey, who said that?
You get back here. This is what it was. So yeah, it seems like most people don't know about this, but it is a new documentary. And I believe this is the first release from DC Studios. So James Gunn's new studios, this is the first film that they've released. So it had like the DC Studios logo and like a little animation, which is kind of cool. Pulled from the comics. It's pretty cool. So Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, directed by, I'm going to butcher this, but directed by Ian Bonhote and Peter Etedgui. Written by the two of them plus Otto Burnham. And so this is the story of Christopher Reeve and his rise to fame, his origins, his rise to fame, and then ultimately his paralysis and life of activism after the paralysis. As somebody who, like, I feel like I know more about Christopher Reeve than probably most people, and certainly more than like the average like 20-year-old. It didn't necessarily tell me anything new, but it was very satisfying to watch unfold. And the way that the directors have structured this, it's non-linear. So we don't start with his childhood and work our way up to, his death. We instead bounce back and forth. And so the story kind of evolves through his career. Very early in the film, we see the accident and the paralysis, and then we kind of bounce back and forth between, shots of him bedridden, chair, ridden, and then in a Superman costume, flying around, and it's incredibly powerful to watch those two things and that man do both of those things. And so the film obviously, interviews his children. He has 3 kids who are all alive. His ex-wife, who's still alive, or actually, I don't think they ever got married, but the mother of 2 of his kids, and as well as tons of archival footage of Chris and Dana Reeve, Richard Donner, and a whole host of other people. Most notably Robin Williams. So for those of you who don't know, Robin Williams and Christopher Reeve were roommates in college. They viewed each other as brothers, and their relationship is a very pivotal component to the film. And it's actually really sweet and, like just a cool little thing, which I knew about, but I hadn't seen the archival footage. Like, this is new stuff, and it's cool and it's funny. There's a funny story of when Chris had his accident, as you can imagine, he woke up after the accident and began to hallucinate, because it's like, your brain can't process what's happening to you. And when he finally, becomes more cognizant of what's happening and what's going on, he begins to have very dark thoughts. And, depressive episodes. And they make a point to say, like, Chris hadn't smiled, hadn't laughed, like he wasn't doing good. And then in walks Robin, and Robin decides, instead of greeting his friend and saying like, oh, hey, how you doing? As most people would do.
Yeah.
Robin puts on scrubs and a mask and goes in pretending to be a proctologist. And like, and this is the first time that they say this is the first time that Chris smiles after the accident, is when he realizes that it's Robin, and that Robin comes in doing a bit. Whereas everybody else came in and with pity and, sorrow, and like Robin, who, as we now know, probably was really expert at masking his sorrow.
Yeah.
Comes in as a fool and, lightens the whole situation. And Robin and his wife did this over and over for Chris throughout the years. And it's really cool to watch that unfold. I mean, obviously there's a lot of archival footage, a lot of talking about, Chris becoming Superman. And so there's if you go into this as a Superman fan, I just want to see Superman, you're going to get a lot of Superman in this for sure. But it's, all in service of the story of Christopher, and it's not a making of Superman. Right. But of course, to talk about Christopher, you have to talk about how does a Juilliard kid go from doing these, off-Broadway plays that are meaningful and artistic to being offered a boatload of cash to play against Marlon Brando in a film about a comic book superhero. At a time where that was not a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you weren't getting brownie points for booking that role. Whereas now, like, anybody in the theater scene goes, back to the theater and says, hey, I just got offered a role in the next Marvel movie. Everyone's jealous and like, whoa, cool. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And whatever.
You
and
might
now,
get murdered.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, I wanted that role. And, but then if you come in and say, hey, I'm Superman, like Jeff Daniels is interviewed. He was, part of Chris's, acting brigade. And he's like, hey, that's selling out, dude. Like, don't do it. And that's what everybody was telling him. Like, you don't want to do this. You don't want to take that role. It's the opposite of art. And Chris was just dead set. Like, I think I can make it art. I think I can do something with it that's better than what we've seen. Because at that point, I guess all they had to compare it to is what, Adam West?
Yeah.
And like, that's it. I'm not saying Adam West isn't art, but I'm saying like, that's not how it was perceived.
Right. It was silly, campy comedy. And even if they weren't going to go the silly campy route with Superman, it was still like probably something that wasn't going to be taken seriously, so totally. We thought,
Yes. And I think that's where, it's interesting that he takes on this role and, is immediately thrown into stardom. And, one of the most famous faces in the world and most revered. And what happened to him at that time, and I think Superman's different now. He's viewed differently by the general public. But in 1978, Superman was still seen as like a cool character and a paragon of, like what America was at that time, And so to play Superman was like an honor also, like to the non-artistic crowd. It was like, man, you should be honored you got to play Superman. And the artists are saying like, oh, that's a terrible sellout. But so immediately Chris is kind of an outsider with the artists who see him as a sellout, and he's thrust into this immediate sense of moral responsibility from America, right? They are now going to hold him to a standard that he can't possibly hit. And so, he talks about being very aware of the fact that, like, no matter what he does, the headlines the next day will say Superman caught with supermodel, you know what I mean? Or Superman
supermodel.
Yeah. Or I forget what the example he gave was, but it was like, Superman loses temper with waitstaff, something like that. Like, this would be the article, but it would be about Superman, like, because people are, he was aware of that, and people were already holding him to a standard of like, you are Superman. And so Superman 2 comes and goes, and he, I think at that point, loses interest. He wants to move on and do something that was more artistic. And so you see him taking a lot of roles where he plays the opposite of Superman, whether it's, like a narcissist or some kind of, villain, or, I forget the name of it, but he plays a gay man in a film. And he's like very clearly taking roles that will push him out of whatever box people are putting him in, whatever Superman-sized box people are putting him in.
Yeah, it's Daniel Radcliffe would go on to do the same thing after Harry Potter.
It's a smart move.
Yeah.
You take what you're known for and you deconstruct it.
Yep.
Bit by bit, I'm going to now take a role where I play against your expectations of me. And then you do it again with a different aspect and again of a different aspect until eventually you're Daniel Radcliffe. You're not Harry Potter anymore. And I think Daniel has hit that point.
I think
he's obviously still Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But he's not. And Chris was certainly on his way to doing that, but a lot of his films didn't quite hit commercially. So while some of them were artistically praised, they weren't hit commercial hits like Superman was. And this strained his marriage and his relationship with his kids, and strained him as an artist because he wanted to, be well received for his art and not, just for the artless Superman as he had come to see it. And especially because he was contractually obligated to do Superman 3 and 4, though they were disasters behind the scenes. And he knew these aren't good. These scripts are not good, but you have to do it. And so you've got that going as well. You have, trouble at home. He, at that point, it was feeling unfulfilled. So of course he kind of wants to, maybe decide to see other people, and leave his girlfriend with whom he has a couple of kids. And so he's, he's not Superman. And then he meets Dana, and she starts to kind of settle him and, ground him. And then sort of, as part of this trajectory of acceptance, and also sort of like slowly stripping away his arrogance, starting with Dana and then ending with his accident. And the accident stripped him of all arrogance. It had to. He became reliant on everyone else. And then he decided to take the drive he had to, he's a little bit like, like a Michael Jordan type. I always lump these people in. They're like obsessive over the thing that they do. And that's what Chris was. He was obsessive over his art, but he was also an obsessive adventureman. Is that a word?
Adventureman. Superman's an adventureman. And he was a little bit like
the first Tom Cruise, right? Where like in between days of filming, he goes and gets his pilot's license and he's flying around and he's doing, he's sailing, he's doing stunts, he's doing all these things. And he's addicted to like the adrenaline of it. So he's, addicted to adventuring and acting. And so now the accident's going to strip both of those things from him.
Yeah.
And he's going to now channel that drive into trying to find a cure for his paralysis, which a lot of people loved him for. He brought a lot of great publicity to the disabled community at that time. And, in the mid 90s, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And so he brought a lot of publicity to that. But at the same time, a lot of people in that community did not like how often he spoke about wanting to find a cure. They felt that he was not accepting himself, and by extension, not accepting them, that he was continually pushing to find a way to, get out of his wheelchair. And so it's a fascinating story. And we know how it ends. We know the twists and turns of it, but it's just interesting to see how these filmmakers have put it together. And they seem to be, with the film, doing two things. One, questioning whether or not Christopher Reeve was indeed super, questioning how like his character he was. And coming up with the answer that he's not like Superman, and he may not have been super. He may have kind of been a jerk sometimes. But then by the end of his life, what is a hero really? Chris's words, I'll paraphrase it, is essentially, I used to think a hero was somebody who jumped into action without calculating the cost. And then he says, now I realize a hero is a normal person who perseveres despite insurmountable obstacle. And so then the question is asked, is Christopher Reeve super? And the final answer of the film seems to be yes. He persevered. He endured intense hardship, harder than any of us will ever know, and stayed himself in some way, and bettered himself through this horrible tragedy, and that whether or not you jump into action without counting the cost, you endured painful things and stayed true. And I think that's where the film eventually lands is Christopher Reeve super? Yes, he was. And I think that, it's a powerful film. There's a few moments where it really chokes you up. I had a knot in my throat several times. His youngest son, Will, is my son's age when Chris had his accident. And the idea that I might come home tomorrow and never be able to play with my son again, ever.
Yeah.
Never be able to turn to look at him. I mean, he could turn his head, but turn your body, to never be able to interact with your child physically ever again, that's a painful thing. And beyond the pain of how do you maintain your sense of self with no autonomy, no bodily function? I don't know how you do that, but even worse, how do you live knowing the things that my child will want of me, I can never give them. I can't throw a ball with him. I can't run a marathon with him. I can't, teach him how to shave, and I can't, teach him how to drive, these things that we all do. it's a tough thing. And I guess I'd thought about it, but I'd never really thought about it, of what that must feel like, and what it must feel like to wake up one day. You wake up, you ride your horse, and the next thing you know, you're waking up again with no ability, no mobility at all. I can't imagine what that would do to you mentally. And I think it takes an incredibly strong person to even begin to deal with the mental load that would be. And the film expertly shows that it wasn't just he that was strong, but his wife, who told him, like, you're still you, I still love you, and never wavered, is rare and admirable. So yeah, it's a good movie, and it will probably inevitably be on Max at some point.
Yeah.
And when it is, I think it's worth checking out, but it can be a hard watch.
It reminds me a little bit of the David Holmes documentary, speaking of Daniel Radcliffe, with the Boy Who Lived, a similar thing. Like, how do you have your life altered in such a dramatic way and your day-to-day existence be, much, much worse than it was when you were able-bodied? And how do you maintain that sense of self and that hopefulness and positivity and all the things that are essential to recovering well and maintaining the best quality of life that is reachable to you, while having to deal with very, very, very hard daily realities.
Yes. Here's something that I did not know about Christopher Reeve's story. So I guess there was something. And it was this: shortly before he died, he was having a conversation with his wife. And this is like a home video, right? She's telling the camera, and she's like, we were just talking, and there's a point in the story where, like, you would just naturally gesture. Mm-hmm. And I noticed he moved a finger when he spoke. Wow. And they showed the home video footage of Chris's finger moving. And then they are like, we're trying not to be hopeful with that. We're trying to be hopeful, but not with expectation. Yeah. And they then show footage of a physical therapy session where he's actually, like, you see him actually move his legs in the water. And so he was close.
Jeez, that's crazy.
And I didn't know that. And the idea, he kept saying, like, in the archival narration, it was like, your nerves rebuild their pathways. The question is, will you be here long enough for that to happen? And, do you put in the work to make it happen? And he certainly was. And it seemed to be paying off. And there is a part of you that thinks, hey, had his body held out to today, would he be walking? Yeah. Would he be up? And that's it's crazy to think that maybe. And that's crazy.
That is nuts.
So there you go.
That's nuts. Well, that sounds good, because I don't know anything about Christopher Reeve. Like, I know broad strokes, obviously. I know about the accident and all that, but I don't. Yeah. It sounds really worth it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, then.
Did you see the Russo Brothers post for their new movie? So it's called The Electric State.
Okay.
It's a sci-fi action film. Let me read you this cast.
Okay.
So directors, Russo Brothers, writers, Marcus and McFeely, with Simon Stalenhag.
Okay.
I don't know who that is. Starring Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, Ki Kwan, Stanley Tucci.
Some of this, yeah.
Yeah. a whole bunch of people.
Huh.
I'm like, yo.
For Netflix, right?
For Netflix, yeah. But yeah, man, I'm like, okay. Let's see what you got. Giancarlo Esposito's in this. Brian Cox, Billy Bob Thornton, Anthony Mackie, Jason Alexander.
Have they made movies that are good beyond the Marvel ones? Because I feel like that last one they made, that Cherry movie, got shit on. And
I never saw it. I still think they carry a lot of goodwill for me just because of the Marvel movies, but also, most importantly, because of Arrested Development. They were integral with Arrested Development, and that's a great comedy. I don't know if this is a comedy. Looking at the way Chris Pratt appears in this film,
it better be a comedy.
I'm thinking it's a comedy. Are you seeing this?
Yeah, I've seen it.
And I'm like, okay, if Chris Pratt's doing a comedy,
hippie Han Solo.
Yeah, I'm there, because I literally was just saying like a day ago, I wish Chris Pratt would make comedies again.
Yeah. He's too pretty now. He can't.
No, he should. Come on.
Drink
Now's the
beer,
time.
tell jokes.
Get fat.
Make laugh.
You don't have to be fat to tell good jokes. It helps. But yeah, man, I don't know.
Hey, there's an outro, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
You wanted us to end the show? We did it. Okay.
Yes. I'm hoping that they do another Star-Lord film. Like just Star-Lord. But then from Agatha, Aubrey Plaza comes over.
Okay.
And then it just ends up being Parks and Rec again. That'd be great.
Oh, okay.
That's all I want. I just want those two characters.
That's who you want him to marry on Earth. Like when they come back and say, Star-Lord, we need your help. And he's like, I don't do that anymore. I've got a family. But here's all my tech and here's the keys to my ship. And then like you hear like, hey, Peter, or whatever. And you cut over and it's her. And she's like, I got some witchy biscuits I made you or something.
Yeah. And then he's like,
she is so hot and it's crazy in bed.
He's like, babe, I told you we have to go buy our new names, Andy and April, and we live in Pawnee, Indiana, and we work at the Parks Department. And then it's just Parks and Rec again.
He looks right at the camera. And
looks right at the camera. And then
coming this fall.
And then Ron Swanson walks in.
Yeah.
I do not know anything about Marvel. I do not care. Don't talk to me.
Hope that spaceship runs on diesel. Or perhaps not those damn Chinese car batteries. All right. Well, interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. The Electric City. The Electric City.
Eventually, everybody from Parks and Rec will be in the MCU. We already got Catherine Hahn and Paul Rudd. Let's keep it going.
Someone, I can't remember who it was, but like, it was one of these, I love these reactors, these YouTube reactors. That's my thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes they say the dumbest shit because they're young. They don't understand stuff.
Sure.
So they'll be like,
what's a Nintendo 64?
They'll be like, oh, they can't stop putting they can't stop putting Marvel actors in these things or whatever. And I'll be like, Marvel's only like a recent thing, right? It's just a way. It's just like, I'm sure it's not what you meant, but it's just, you want to reach through the screen and be like, are you fucking dumb?
Yes.
You're fucking dumb, aren't you?
Yep.
It's just stuff like that. And he's just like, okay, this person's 21 years old. It's just, they don't know what they're talking about. It's just,
They're watching the Last Picture show and they're like, why is Obadiah Stane in this? And why is he so young?
Yeah.
My man, that is Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the dude.